So good morning and welcome. So as you can see, the title of the presentation of this morning will be Your Health and how our health and the choices we are making for our health connect with our happiness, but also with some level of protection of the environment, and at the same time the possibility that we have to serve our fellows. And my name is Valerie Dufour. I am French. And I work currently as the director of the Health Ministries Department in the Inter-European Division, which is based in Bern, Switzerland. So I don't know if some of you have already thought about the health choices that you are embracing, and if you on purpose made some decision to keep your health or to improve it, or if you just maybe keep the habits of your parents, or maybe what your other colleagues or friends are doing, or how you base the choices you make for your diet, for the quantity of exercise that you do or you don't do. I mean, how do you make your choices? And what I will present you this morning will help you, I hope, to make some helpful choices. And when we think about the Bible and God's plan for our health, I don't know what would come to your mind and which parts of the Bible you would look at to have some health advices. If we would say, okay, where in the Bible are there some places where I can collect some health advices? Are there some places you can think about? In Leviticus, yeah, there are all these laws of sanitation and cleanness, because in the time of Moses there was the lepra and all these infectious diseases to protect themselves from. But the chapter I would like to propose us to start with for principles for our health is the book of Genesis and the chapter regarding the creation, which is often more looked in the context of the creation of the earth, but not so much in the context of what we could do for our health. So I would like us to consider this chapter as it could relate to some principles for our health. So in the first book of Genesis, the first chapter, we have the account of creation, and we just quickly go through the days and see what principles are there that we can understand. So on the very first day of creation, we see that God creates the principle of a day and of a night. He creates a 24-hour rhythm with some time with light and some time of darkness. On the second day, he created some Bible call the firmament, which is the heaven. On the third day, he separated the earth from the waters. On the third day, also on the earth, he planted grass, herbs, and trees. On the fourth day, he created the sun, moon, and stars. The fifth day, creatures in heaven and in the waters, I mean all the birds and fishes. In the sixth day, creatures on earth. On the sixth day, still, he created also human beings, so man and woman. And then, after having created all these different elements, he rested on the seventh day and gave this day to us also as a day to keep. So when we see all these creation days and what they contain, how do these things relate to our health possibly? And then what we need to say also is that at the end of this creation, I mean, we need to think that God didn't create the earth for the trees. He didn't create the earth for the animals, as nice as they are. He created the earth for human beings. So he created an environment that should be for our full happiness, development, enjoyment. So all that he created for us, he saw that it was very good. And very can be translated in different manners. So it was exceedingly greatly, wholly, completely good, or completely beautiful, completely pleasant, completely joyful, completely bountiful. And so it was the very best, it was exceedingly beautiful, it was wholly pleasant, so it was just everything of everything, just perfect as we can imagine. So how does now all these elements relate to some points that we can learn for our health? What was God's plan for our continual health and happiness? And here is a summary of what each day of the week teaches us in terms of health principles. So the creation health principles are the following: that God created a 24-hour rhythm of work and rest, which is called today by science a circadian rhythm, a 24-hour circadian rhythm. Then he created air and water for us to enjoy pure air and pure water. He invited our first parents to a plant-based diet and also to physical activity, because he didn't only give them a garden, but he gave them the garden to keep it. So there was plenty of sunshine, a life close to nature, and actually their house was made out of natural elements. They were basically living in the garden. The principle of companionship, that we are not made to live isolated. Some few people might have this gift, but most of the people are made to live in communities, in families. We need companionship. And also a day of rest and worship, a special day to keep aside for our relationship and relationship with Him. So these are fundamental principles that the creation is pointing to. And I don't know if you have already read the book of Genesis chapter 1 in this manner, that you picked in every day some elements for your own health. And then the interesting thing is that the Bible, that has been written quite many thousand years ago, what is the scientific validity of each one of these principles? What is science saying about each of these principles? So I will not go too much in detail, otherwise we could spend a whole month just on these points. But just a few elements and how science is validating each of these points as a clear, important element of our health. So this 24-hour rest and rhythm, this is here a quotation for a Center for Disease Control and Prevention in America, which says that while we often consider sleep to be a passive activity, sufficient sleep is increasingly being recognized as an essential aspect of health promotion and chronic diseases prevention. And so this rhythm of 24 hours is very important. And for instance, there is a group of professionals that has some problem with their depressed immune system, which are the stewards, stewardess, and pilots. Because they are in a continual change of rhythm. They don't have this regular pattern of working and sleeping each night. And it's well known that steward and stewardess have a suppressed immune system because they don't sleep properly or on regular rhythm. Then another point is the aspect of pure air and water. And there have been some, beside the importance of water for our health, also reflection on the quantity of water that would be optimal for our health. And here, this study, very recent study says, from the Institute of Medicine, says that they recommend men to drink 13 cups a day. 13 cups, it's about 13 glasses. And a woman, 9 cups a day. So this is a good amount of water. But it's true that it's very much contributing to a good level of energy. Another principle is a plant-based diet. And God actually gave to human beings every herb bearing seed and every tree bearing fruit for their food. So how is this principle of plant-based diet viewed today or supported by science? So here is the position of the American Dietetic Association. So this is an association of dietitians in the States. And this has not always been the case, that they view a plant-based or vegetarian diet as a healthful diet, but it has taken some time, but they clearly now took a position. I'm not sure if I can read this. That total vegetarian or vegan diets are nutritionally adequate, provide health benefit in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. So they take a clear position in favor of a vegan or vegetarian diet as a way to keep healthy and prevent a number of chronic diseases also. Now regarding, and then there is also always more studies coming up in the last years and decades especially regarding the importance or the benefit of plant-based diet to prevent or treat or reverse chronic diseases, meaning for people who have diabetes, heart disease, and all kinds of conditions. Plant-based diets have a great benefit. And this doctor here, for instance, says that healthy eating may be best achieved with a plant-based diet. And here below for the doctors, they may also reduce the number of medications needed to treat chronic diseases and, for instance, heart disease rates. Physicians should consider recommending a plant-based diet to all their patients. So this is very new. We would not have read something similar in the medical journals even 20 years ago. But there has been a lot of research on the benefits of plant-based diet in the last few decades. And this is how a plant-based diet can look like. This is the food pyramid from Loma Linda University. So this is an Adventist university in California. And this is their recommendation for a balanced plant-based diet where whole grain cereals, whole bread, brown rice, and whole grain cereals are combined with legumes, beans, chickpeas, or soy from one side, and there is a good amount of fruit and vegetables, nuts and seed, vegetable oils, and dairy and egg for those who are vegetarian, or more or less for those who choose to use them or not. But this is how a plant-based diet looks like. Now, regarding physical activity, God gave Adam and Eve the task to dress and keep the garden. And physical activity is key for our health. Physical activity and nutrition are the two key fundamentals of our health. So, and there are also a lot of research on physical activity in the prevention and treatment of diseases. So our body is built for movement very, very clearly. And physical activity do not only benefit our physical health, but it also benefits our mental health. So people who tend, for instance, to have a depression, to have some burnout, or maybe at school also, university, whatever, spending a lot of time studying, it's good to have a balance with enough physical activity, not only mental activities, but also physical activities to kind of counterbalance. And most organs and tissues are affected by physical activity and adapt to regular exercise. So another point is the aspect of companionship and the importance of social ties or social relationship for our physical and mental health. And last but not least, God has given us this day of rest and worship, and we have a faith factor, this connection that we have with God, this faith in God, the hope we have in that He will do according to His words and promises and come back soon. All this aspect of our faith is also very much impacting our health. More than we also would have thought. And many studies are showing that people who are believers have a better health than other people. And one reason is that, for instance, believers tend to have less addictions also. This is one factor, or they tend to have a little less depressions also. So there are different benefits connected with our faith. So as we see, each of the health principles that we found in the creation account and in Genesis 1 has some scientific support regarding its importance for our health. But now, and this is here also a quotation of Ellen White regarding the relationship between prayer and our mental health. Communion with God through prayer develops the mental and moral faculties, and the spiritual powers strengthen as we cultivate thoughts upon spiritual things. So prayer is also a way to develop our mental health. Okay, but now, as we have seen the how science is backing up each one of these single elements, how does it look like regarding health, well-being, or longevity when people apply all of these principles in their life? And some studies, and actually many studies, have been done on Adventists. I mean, for those of you who may do some medical studies or may do in the future some medical studies, if you go and search the medical literature, I mean, all the scientific articles, and you type Adventist, you will find an incredible number of studies that have been done on Adventists because of their better health status than the rest of the population for those who keep all these principles. So what are the studies on Adventists saying? I mean, I will just mention now one or two because we would not be able to have them all. But here, for instance, one study that is called the Adventist Health Study 2 that has involved thousands of Adventists has given interesting results regarding the morbidity and mortality of Adventists. And here it's a simple conclusion of one of the conclusions from this study, that the data collected in many studies have shown that on average, Adventists, I mean, these studies are from some Adventist group in the States compared to the general population, that on average, Adventists who follow the whole health principles promoted by the church live 7 to 10 years longer than the rest of the population. So this is a great, and it's not only about longevity, but it's also about life quality, meaning that they don't only live longer, but they also have less diseases, less diabetes, less heart disease, less cancers, less of all the common chronic diseases. Now, just a little example of the benefit of our diet for our fitness. So this was here in December 2010, a normal marathon in Honolulu, Hawaii. And this lady that you see here on the right side, she's an Adventist. And she does marathon. But what you may not know is her age. So she has been taking part to the marathon at 92 years of age. And she has been, I mean, she was not running, but she has been quickly walking during 10 hours and finishing the marathon. So this is one example of how a healthful lifestyle can contribute very much to our fitness until a very old age. And even more when you're younger. So, other examples also of healthy centenarians around the world. I mean, this will not be Adventist. These are studies that have been done in centenarians in Japan. The lifestyle is not fully the same, but you will see that there are many common elements. And here are two centenarians in Japan in these Blue Zone studies. Blue Zone studies has studies that have been done in places in the world where the concentration of centenarians is particularly high. And so Japan, Okinawa Island, was one of these blue zones. And these two persons, for instance, you can see that in their 100 are fully physically active, one gardening, the other one doing some game on the beach. And so it's not about being old and just being miserable and sick during 20 years, 80 and up. It's about people being well. Mm-hmm. Okay, now about these blue zone studies. Okay, as I said, some, let me do this thing. Okay, some years ago in 2005, one explorer, one journalist for National Geographic had decided to go with doctors and demographers, with a whole team, to different parts of the world where the concentration of centenarians was particularly high, to try to find out why were those people living long and healthy lives. And each of these zones has been called a blue zone. So there are different blue zones. For instance, one blue zone was in the center of the island of Sardinia in Italy, in the mountain part of Sardinia, where they have a lot of centenarians. Another blue zone was in the island of Icaria in Greece. Another blue zone was in Okinawa, Japan, where we just saw 2 centenarians. Another blue zone was the Adventist of Loma Linda, California. So this journalist is not an Adventist, but he went there because there are a lot of centenarians also. And there have been another one, blue zone, in Costa Rica also. But here, this graph that we will see is the characteristic of the centenarians in each one of these blue zones. And what we will look at more particularly is what they have in common, because they have some common elements, and so what they have in common. So here are the 3 blue zones. So I will not look at all the points, but you can see that on top is the Loma Linda, so Adventist blue zones with the different characteristics of the centenarians. Here Sardinia, Italy, and here Okinawa, Japan. And what I would like to look at is what is in the very center. So what is common to all these centenarians and is believed to be some important factors of their health and longevity is that their family ties and bonds, that they are all non-smoking, they all have a plant-based diet, they all have a constant, moderate physical activity, as you saw, the gardening or biking, or Adventist is more walking or swimming in Loma Linda, these kind of things. Social engagement, meaning serving their communities, having a sense of purpose, meaning that even in their older age, they still feel useful because they serve people around them. And then they all eat legumes. I mean, legumes are the beans and chickpeas and soy, all these kind of things. And so these are, and there are other elements where there is some stress management element. And an interesting also characteristic of many of these places is a good amount of sunshine, because California has a good amount of sunshine, Sardinia also, Okinawa, all these places are on a level where, and they have climates with a good amount of sunshine, which is also a good element for our health if we don't get our skin burned, but temperate amount of sunshine is very helpful. And so how does this relate to what we have seen so far? And I found what I will show right now very amazing, that we have seen what are the principles of health as we derive them from creation. And here we see the common characteristic of the centenarians. And when you compare them, they are very similar. Meaning that what God tells us in Genesis 1 is what we find today to be the secrets of longevities of the centenarians around the world, which is completely amazing to me. I mean, amazing. We have a great God, don't we? Okay, so meaning that the creation health principles, we have this principle of day and rest rhythm. So these people also are also taking care of their having enough rest, but also having good element of stress management. Pure air and water, all these people are not smoking and not using alcohol. Plant-based diet, they have a plant-based diet. Physical activity, they have regular physical activity. Sunshine, many of these places have sunshine. A life close to nature, there is a lot of gardening. Companionship, family, social support, and many of them are believers. So, I mean, for me, it's really very, very interesting to see how the Bible is giving us incredible scientific principles for our health and for our happiness. And maybe I have to say this, that the Bible is often not looked as a scientific book. The Bible is highly scientific. It's just not put in words with formulas and ways scientific articles could be put. But there are so many aspects, like you mentioned the Leviticus before and the laws of health. It's highly scientific. The Bible is has a lot of scientific elements. Okay, so then, as I mentioned in my workshop, I will just give some tips or elements for those who would like to improve their fitness or to manage their weight. So I'll go very quickly. So some key elements for everybody's fitness is to have a good amount of sleep. You cannot be fit if you don't sleep properly, and you cannot exercise if you have not slept enough also. Is to have a good amount of water. This gives us a good level of energy, a plant-based diet, regular physical activity, and also a day of rest. So the basic for a minimum level of fitness is to have regular aerobic exercise, meaning brisk walking or biking or running, at least 150 minutes per week. So this is the minimum. And also, on another level, strength training of all major muscle groups. So it can be some weightlifting or using some resistance bands or push-ups or sit-ups, so to increase the muscular strength. So this is some basic principles of physical activity for our fitness. And then some diet principle also for our fitness. I mean, when we look around what the society is offering to stimulate or to give energy, these are really short stimulation. I mean, let me explain what I'm trying to say. That there are elements to rise our level of energy that is just for a short term, and there are ways to raise our level of energy that will be lasting level of energy. So a quick way to raise our level of energy is to use simple sugars, to use soft drinks, or to use caffeine or caffeinated beverages. It gives a quick push, but it's not a lasting source of energy, because 1 or 2 hours later you are as much down as you were 2 hours before. So this is not a lasting source of energy, and it rather takes, I mean, because of the, for instance, caffeine intake tend to increase our level of cortisol, which is an hormone that gives us energy, but to have a continual artificial stimulation to produce more cortisol is really depriving us of much energy. But long-term energy or through a better nourishment of our body is more linked to nutrients-dense foods. I guess I should give you an example of a refined food or nutrients-dense food. I mean, okay, a simple example would be a white bread in comparison to a whole grain bread. In a whole grain bread, you still have all the B vitamins. In a white bread, 70 to 80% of the B vitamin are lost. In a whole grain bread, you have more magnesium, you have more calcium, you have more iron. In a refined bread, you have 7 times less magnesium, much less calcium, 3 times less iron. Okay? So you see the comparison between a refined food and nutrients-dense food also. This is also the comparison between a fruit and a fruit juice, because in the fruit juice you lost the fibers, you lose a lot of the vitamin C through the processing, a lot of the vitamin A that get destroyed when it's in the air. So there are foods that give us the same feeling of satiety, but that doesn't bring the same nourishment to our body. And so instead of simple sugars like white sugar, complex carbohydrates, which are again the cereals, or even it would be better to eat some dry fruits or dates or apricots or figs than to eat some sweets and sugars. It will bring at least more minerals. Water and also sleep, because caffeine is really a short-term push that deprives us of true energy. And some vitamins these are not the only vitamins that are important for our fitness, but they are certainly very important. The vitamin of the B vitamins of the B group are helping to get energy out of the carbohydrates, meaning when we eat carbohydrates and when we don't have the B vitamins because we eat refined products, we cannot process the carbohydrate as well as when we have this whole grain, whole foods with all these vitamins. And the vitamin C in the same manner is very important. So here are some few elements, but we could be much longer on this. So whole grains are always there with vitamin B1, B2, magnesium. The vitamin C, for instance, you can only find vitamin C in uncooked fruits and vegetables. As soon as you cook them, you lose a lot of the vitamin C. So if you want to have enough vitamin C, you need to eat raw, uncooked food enough daily. And some of these, goyava, we don't have them too much here, but kiwi, orange, pepper, cabbage, these are all great sources of vitamin C. And then we had a quotation of Ellen White here, where she says that grain, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. But it can be also a vegetarian diet with some eggs and some other animal products. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. And there is, for instance, an Ironman triathlon runner. I don't remember his name, but Danzier or something like this. So it's a man running marathons who noticed his level of performance greatly increase when he moved from an omnivorous diet to a plant-based diet. He increased his level of performance and especially of recuperation after hard training. Okay, now some quick principle on weight management, but I see that I need to go forward. So just very quickly, let me go to this slide maybe. Here you can see a graph of men with different age groups, so men 20-29, 30-39, 40-49, and so forth. And here the body mass index, do everybody know what the body mass index is? It's so the relationship between our weight to our height. And this is a measure of whether we have a normal weight or we are overweight, okay? And you can see that for almost all the age group, but I circled your age group, that the vegan and vegetarian have a lower body mass index in general than the meat eaters. So this is a way to help your weight if you're looking to have this. And here again for women, this is the same principle. Vegetarians and vegans have lower body mass index than meat eaters. Yeah.
What happens to the vegans after 70?
What is your question?
What happens to the vegans after 70?
Yes.
They collapse.
Yeah, but maybe I have to say 20 is still a healthful body weight, a body mass index, because the normal for body mass index is 18 to 25. When your body mass index is between 18 and 25, it's a normal weight. Below 18, it's underweight. Above 25, it's overweight. So they are still in the normal weight. I hope that it doesn't go further down, then we could. But as long as it's in the 20s, it's still okay. Okay, and for weight balance, it's important to eat food as grown, meaning food that is not refined on one side and food that is not concentrated on another side. And I give you two examples of concentrated food. One is sugar. Sugar is a highly concentrated food. And oil. Oil is also a highly concentrated food because if you look where they are in the nature, you don't find them under this form and concentration. So sugar and oils are both highly concentrated and highly caloric also. Okay. I just look because we still have 5 minutes and I still have other elements to cover. But also, when you eat foods that are not refined, they will have a lower glycemic index, meaning your blood sugar after eating will not will be more regular. And if your blood sugar is more regular, you will not have this hunger feelings so regularly. You can eat one meal and you are fine until the next meal. There is no need for snacking or eating in between. And also food of a low caloric density. And I give you an example of low versus high caloric density. If you take one apple, one middle apple, 100-gram apple, it's about 50 calories. One apple is 50 calories. If you take 100 grams of chocolate, cake, or waffles, or whatever, it's 550 calories. But it's still 100 grams, okay? 100 grams, 50 calories, 100 grams, 550 calories. So you need to eat 11 apples, which is a good amount, until you have as many calories as in 100 grams of chocolate waffles. So you see that some food have a high caloric density and others a low caloric density. And if you need maybe to lose weight or to balance your weight or to keep your weight, you need to see that you have enough of the food that have a low caloric density so that you don't go over your necessary calorie intake. Okay, so how does our choices, how do our lifestyle choices relate with the protection of the environment? I will just mention one element. There could be different. There could be elements linked to our consumption of water, to our ways of transportation. But I will mention one element that has to do with our dietary choices. So God gave us the garden to dress it and keep it, meaning to keep it functioning and to protect it also. So how does this creation lifestyle connect with sustainable development? So a sustainable development means that it's a development of a country or of the earth more globally, where the human needs and goals, are met, meaning people's needs are met, people can eat, they can have all they need, okay? But without undermining the integrity and stability of the natural systems. Because otherwise, at some point, we will not be able to further have what we need, okay, if we undermine the stability of the natural systems. So, and today in the world in which we are living, we don't live in a world where the development is sustainable. Why? Because globally, human needs are not met. For us, the needs are met, okay? We have something to eat, we have water, clean water, all kind of things, but 1 people out of 10 in the world have no access to clean water. Or difficult access, meaning walking 2 kilometers to get a crook of water and walking 2 kilometers back to bring it to the house. I mean, this is the situation for some people today. And more than 100 million people worldwide are not only eating not too much, but they face acute malnutrition or even risk starvation. A lot of people don't have the food they need every day. And on the other side, the way we are using the earth globally, we go quickly with the degradation of land and forest, degradation of freshwater system, large emission of greenhouse gases, and we hear about all these conferences about the greenhouse gases, and a lot of pollution through agricultural chemicals, pesticides and all this. And one element that is connected with this is the meat consumption, and the fact that everywhere around the world in the last, let's say, 30 years or 40 years, everywhere in the world, people are in average eating more meat. Meaning, for instance, in the 19th, if I take the purple line, okay, in the 1960s, in the East Asia, people were eating 10 kilos of meat per person per year, okay? 30 years later, they are eating almost 60 kilos of meat per person per year. And then there is also the fact that the population is increasing, so more people eating more meat leads to a need to produce all this meat and to have a lot of livestock farming, okay? And what is happening with livestock farming? All the animals that are produced for the consumption, they use 1/3 of the fresh water globally. They use 1/3 of the world crop. I mean, when wheat or soy or maize is produced, 1/3 of it goes to feed animals. Instead of feeding people, they go to feed animals. They produce 10 to 20% of greenhouse gases. I mean, animals are also producers of greenhouse gases, cows also especially. They produce methane. And 3/4 of the new diseases come from animals, like the avian or bird flu and all these things that are also related with this. Also, for instance, if you want to produce 1 kilo of beef, you need 15,000 liters of water. To produce 1 kilo of wheat or cereal, you need 1,250 liters of water. So there is a whole difference in the way our resources are going to feed animals instead of going directly to feed people. And this is a study that has been done by some Adventist researchers in Loma Linda, that substituting beans for beef would contribute toward climate change targets. So they looked at the American population in general and to see if all Americans would become vegetarian, what would happen? What would happen is that United States would realize approximately 50 to 70% of the greenhouse gas reduction, only if every single American would become a vegetarian. So this is a way also there is a way we use water. There are all different ways where we impact the environment, but our dietary choices are certainly a way. So without meat, each one could be healthier and the planet as well. And beyond this, God has created animals with also feelings and emotions, and also to be our companions also in a way. Now, how does all this relate to service? How does this creation health principles make us a potential agent of service for our communities? What we see from Jesus is that he was going through cities and villages, teaching and preaching, but also mainly and mostly healing every sickness and every disease among the people. And what we are told is that God would like to use us or call us in the same manner to also minister to the people around us. But sometimes we wonder how we can do this, okay? We don't have people with lepra, we cannot resuscitate people, so how can we minister to people as Jesus was doing? The way we can minister to people today is by helping them with the chronic diseases. I mean, Jesus had various conditions that we don't have today. We don't have, I mean, there are some lepra sick in the world, but not in the countries in which we are living. And in the country in which we are living, people are suffering from heart disease and from diabetes and from obesity, chronic respiratory diseases. And the way we can help them is because all these diseases are lifestyle related, meaning all these diseases are connected with the dietary choices people have, maybe with their lack of physical activity, with their lack of drinking water, with their lack of proper sleep. Okay, all this plays a role in the development of diabetes and all these diseases. And this is chronic diseases are a leading cause of mortality and morbidity in Europe, and individuals as well as politicians are looking for solutions for these chronic diseases. But with all these lifestyle principles that we have and can implement in our life, we are a low-risk group for these diseases, meaning this creation lifestyle is helping us to prevent these diseases or even to reverse them, okay? Also, in the same manner, Adventists have a much lower incidence of diabetes because of this creation lifestyle. So the point is that when people have chronic diseases, the way we can, as Jesus, minister to their needs is by knowing these health principles, by implementing them in our life, and by helping them on their ways, maybe to improve their diet, to do more exercise, and to drink more water, to have more adequate sleep. And this is the way we can help people around us, as Jesus was doing in his time also, because we have to deal with the needs of people of today with the tool that we have in our hands, okay? And also at the same time to provide people some support, encouragement, motivation, and all of this. And this applies also to mental diseases. For instance, people who have depression, they can be greatly improved if they improve their lifestyle. For instance, for many people with depression, if they increase substantially their level of physical activity, they can, if they have a low, how you call it, not low grade, moderate depression, not a severe depression, I missed the word, okay, not a severe depression. If they increase their level of physical activity, they can stop being depressed, okay? So if you have a friend who has a depression, if you have a neighbor who has a depression, if you take the people with you for a walk every day, a good, brisk walk, you can help them to solve their depression if they have a simple form of depression, okay? So this is the way we can help our communities. And also by connecting, inviting, being close to people. And this is in sympathy and compassion. God calls us to follow him, to minister to people in need. And I would like to close with this. Oh, let me stop. With this video. Oh, they didn't put me the sound today. Oh, is it? Yesterday I had the sound system, but it's not here today. Otherwise we will listen without sound, but only the images we'll see will give a message. It's here, okay.